Hello and welcome back to Thoughtumentary, the podcast dedicated to interesting thoughts and ideas. Today I would like to discuss intelligence, which is a very misconstrued word and concept, which throughout the ages has been enshrouded by egotism, confusion, and very often misused in academic context and elements that are outside of human control. Intelligence is not to be confused with knowledge. Knowledge being essentially the brain's memories accrued throughout the course of a lifetime, acquired by study and effort in expanding one's understanding of the world we live in. Most commonly, intelligence is thought to be something that is for the most part out of our control. A keen analogy I like to use is the comparison between the words ideas talent versus skill in contrast to intelligence versus knowledge. And the difference is very important in understanding the nature of intelligence. And the analogy goes like this. It's believed collectively that talent is essentially an aptitude that a person is born with, an aptitude to excel in certain areas of human application, whether it be in athleticism, in one's ability to learn, play an instrument, paint on a canvas, or simply the ability to speak. Skill, on the other hand, is something that is built by discipline and focused effort, generally in an effort to improve upon what one was, I'll use the word, given at birth. Abilities, in other words, what a person is capable of, are the consequence of both talent and skill. And this is why the comparison is so closely paralleled to intelligence and knowledge. Because the brain's capabilities, or the brain's abilities, as an organ, as a computer, are a combination of knowledge and intelligence. But I would like to present a different belief or philosophy pertaining to the idea of intelligence, which I derive from my own experience and the recognition of my own intelligence and abilities, which have grown over time. Most commonly, and as a society, we gauge a person's intelligence by intelligent quotient, or intelligence quotient, more commonly known as IQ. In other words, we try to quantify, using numbers, a person's born abilities and measure, so to speak, the power, the efficiency, or the capabilities of a person's brain with IQ, which is really just an obscure number generated practically on a whim, resulting from a man-made test, which is originally designed to determine how quickly a person can think. IQ tests are not useless, but I would go as far as to say that with regards to gauging a person's intelligence or born abilities, it is entirely inadequate. But it is convenient, at least in terms of language, to use IQ when communicating one's ability to change the abilities of one's brain and improve them over time. Almost unanimously as an international society, we humans have agreed that intelligence is a quality that we are all born with, although not equally endowed, and there are extremities in the form of those that are exceptionally unintelligent, mental retardation, mental disability, in contrast to those that are exceptionally intelligent, those being the geniuses we admire throughout history, and that at some point in our lives we all aspire to. But these are all labels, and as with the IQ score, could not possibly hope to encompass the complexity that is the human brain, its ability to change and adapt, and the unique individuality that we all have in the form of our organic computers. And I describe the human brain as such a thing because as we learn more about the sciences, we come to observe this very interesting phenomenon, and that is that the human being, the human body, its DNA, and perhaps more than anything else, the human brain, shares a great many similarities with machines, and more specifically with computers, computer code. And I find that since thinking about the brain as an organic computer, my idea of what it does on a daily basis and what it's capable of has been fundamentally transformed. If you've been born in the past few decades, you've come to witness an awe-inspiring transformation of the human species in its collective growth, intellectually, scientifically, alongside the development of computer technology, microprocessors, the storage and sharing of information. And throughout a very short period of time, our computers have grown increasingly more advanced at a fantastic speed. If you've ever studied computers, or better yet, if you've ever built a computer, you know full well that they can be expanded upon, and the identity of a computer, or even a central processor, is never truly lost, but merely transformed in its overall acquisition of more advanced and more powerful parts. It is therefore essential in this discussion to realize that, like a computer, your brain, without your consent or knowledge, is constantly changing and growing in its complexity, its capabilities, and if you wish, you're able to update your understanding of what you yourself, as a human being at the helm of a human body, are capable of. Yes, it's true, intelligence is something that we are born with, the same as you're born with a hand or a tongue. But the brain is, after all, an organ. I won't call it a muscle, but I will compare it to one, because if you treat it like a muscle, you will begin to realize that intelligence, which is so loosely defined, but can at least be described as one's ability to think, problem solve, and generally make sense of the physical reality we find ourselves in, can be improved. For as arrogant as the human species is, and those scientific leaders from whom we take our direction from among scientific matters, one of the few cases of humility that can time again be agreed upon is that the human brain is seemingly infinitely complex, and that our understanding of it is perhaps as elementary, if not more so, as our understanding of the cosmos itself. You might take the example of quantum mechanics, or the physical properties of the singularity of a black hole. The human brain and its day-to-day functionality can be compared to the mysteriousness of these things, and we stand humbled in our utter lack of ability to understand how it works, how it changes, how it articulates the immaterial in the form of thoughts, how it handles electricity, and how any of this is possible, where it came from, what designed it. All of these things are an enigma to our rudimentary understanding of ourselves. All I wish to convey in this discussion is that, like all machines, the brain can be improved upon. By focused learning and training, new neural pathways are formed. Take, for example, television, make a very simple choice in your life. To, if not eliminate television entirely, replace some of the time you spend watching TV, the more the better, with reading, and the brain will slowly be transformed. Physically. I won't even try to explain to you how this happens. I would only say that if you simply pay attention, you cannot help but notice an improved ability to think faster, a mental clarity in dealing with the various stresses and encumbrances of day-to-day life, and perhaps a reinvigorated interest in the acquisition of knowledge, and an improvement upon one's mental aspirations, increased mental fortitude, all from one simple behavioral change. Extraordinary physical transformations will follow. Consider as well that throughout a human life, the brain never truly stops developing. Forming new memories is a physical process. Take, for example, somebody who suffers a brain injury, a concussion or a contusion of some kind. Perhaps parts of the brain need to be removed because they're degenerative. Memories are quite physically lost in the organic matter that was your frontal lobe. Or consider the process of Alzheimer's disease. The slow and excruciating death of a person's brain from front to back. The first things to go, the new memories, the latest. Then the childhood memories. Then simple motor functions as the cerebellum becomes compromised. And finally, the basic, involuntary, and crucial management of organs done through the brainstem. If you've ever had to watch a loved one, die from Alzheimer's, like I did with my grandfather, it is a most unpleasant fate. It's also very important to realize that certain elements have the ability to affect the concentration of brain cells. Ingesting alcohol, for example, has a marked effect on the potency of your brain cells, the number of them even. These are the microscopic automatons we need to think, to form new memories. Where certain foods in the form of micronutrition or even recreational drugs like cannabinoids have the adverse effect and are able to increase your concentration of brain cells and nourish them. Begin by cleansing the toxins and inhibitors currently polluting your brain, and I promise you that you will undergo a startling transformation of intellect. Continue doing so, and you'll eventually come to look back on your former self as a person that no longer exists because you've become far more aware and you're capable of directing the course of your life. The most powerful change that you can make to improve your quality of life is not in the pursuit of money or relationships, but to familiarize yourself with the organic computer that you're carrying around in your cranium. Understand, at least on a surface level, how it works, and most importantly, understand that this is a tool that is 100% at your command, and if directed properly, will enrich your life in ways you never thought possible. Great effort has been expended by others, and more importantly by you, to ensure that your mental potential is not attained. Therefore, the amount of intellectual growth available to you is far greater than you know. Although it is likely that much of our latent potential is preordained, and that very few of us are born, like Nikola Tesla, for example, with photographic memories, and therefore you must undergo far more strain to learn and remember. We are all born with genius. The difficulty lies simply in discovering it and then becoming comfortable with what you're capable of. Now, I've been drawing many comparisons between the brain and a machine, and I do believe quite literally that it is an organic computer, it's important to understand that human bodies and organisms in general are far more fragile than machines like the ones we've crafted, made of steel, various metals, and carbon, and so on. It is a very sensitive computer. The brain, after all, runs on fuel, adenosine triphosphate, or ATP. Doesn't exactly roll off the tongue. But when the body is malnourished, or it's thirsty, you run low. The brain can overheat, it can fatigue and requires rest and recovery. If underutilized, it can grow dull. But if you can learn to master its needs, it becomes the most powerful tool in the known universe. So if you haven't gathered by now, what I've been trying to convey to you is that intelligence is not a static or constant quality that we're all born with. Intelligence is arising in all of us, as a species and individually. You are able to make a conscious effort to train your brain like you might train your muscles in the gym, to push your mental capabilities, to hyper-focus, concentrate, and as a result, the unending mental applications of everyday life will become increasingly alleviated. You'll suddenly notice that tasks that once felt insurmountable to you are a walk in the park, that the mental acuity demanded by everyday activities, whether it's rebuilding parts of your house, or wiring a computer, building a machine, that under continued concentration these things become easy. Now it is worth mentioning that if you choose, you can view intelligence, or the capability of your brain, as something that is, for all intents and purposes, infinite. For we all are, after all, an unending storehouse of abilities, that our DNA may very well be a program that is slowly delivering us upon its destination, which is a being far more advanced than the humans of today, and that what I've communicated in today's podcast is simply the uncovering of what is already there, that you already are a genius. You just don't realize it. That we're all born genius, and very few of us make the effort to become one. The difference to me is inconsequential. In this audio documentary, I simply want to convey that for society to tell you, you have been dealt this mental hand of cards, so to speak, in life. That's what you have. That's all you are. That's what you're capable of, and you have to deal with it, is ludicrous. If you believe, like so many people today, that you were born stupid, that you will always be stupid, and you will die stupid, then nothing but this can be the truth for you. But if you choose to believe that you were born wielding the greatest gift the earth has ever known, in the form of a human brain, that this tool that belongs to you alone is mightier than any sports car, any mansion, or any savings account, that you accept the responsibility to guide and foster this tool. Understand that it is ever evolving, far beyond your lifespan, and become grateful that the onus of such an important task has befallen you and everyone you know, and accept this responsibility with the utmost seriousness. Then in time the world will notice your genius, and it will never be the same again. In future installments of this podcast, I would like to discuss education, particularly how education is handled in the United States, seeing as how that's where my experience comes from. And I'd also like to discuss a fascinating subject known as super intelligence, which is something that is approaching very quickly that we will no doubt witness in our lifetimes, and that will most likely become very quickly available to all of us, which may result in a sudden and radical transformation of the human species. As always, thank you for listening. Leave your comments and feedback, suggestions for future installments on whichever platform you found me on, and stay tuned for future broadcasts. Thank you.